Welcome friends. So today we are going to discuss the basic concept of transfer pricing. What is transfer pricing? And also why do we require transfer pricing regulations to be in place? What is the fundamental rationale behind transfer pricing provisions? So before we get into the concept, just give you a brief idea of the basic concepts of transfer pricing. Well friends, as you can see on the slide before you, there are three concepts which have been laid out: transfer price, transfer pricing, and arm's length price. These are all similar sounding words, but yet there is a technical difference between the three of them. What is transfer price? Transfer price is the actual price at which different divisions of a multi-divisional organization or a multinational enterprise transact with each other. Transfer pricing, on the other hand, is the valuation process. It is the exercise whereby we strive to arrive at the arm's length price. Arm's length price, of course, that's the kingpin of the three different concepts. It is the ideal concept. It is the concept towards which we are striving. It is our objective. The entire transfer pricing regulations are revolving around this fundamental concept, which is the arm's length price. It is the market price or the fair value price at which multinational companies should ideally be transacting amongst themselves, which is to say, one parent should be transacting with its subsidiary at the arm's length price. So my friends, having understood the three different concepts, we move on to the next slide, wherein we understand how exactly do multinational companies use transfer pricing to optimize their global tax cost. So on the screen, you can see two jurisdictions: the high tax jurisdiction, country A, and the low tax jurisdiction, country B. In this example, we have the parent company in country A and the subsidiary in country B. What is really happening here is that the multinational company is resorting to optimization of its global tax cost by shifting profits from the high tax jurisdiction to the low tax jurisdiction. And how exactly would it be doing that? Well, a multinational company has full control over the pricing that it sets for any transaction that takes place across the borders. So for example, in this case, the pricing between the parent and the subsidiary is completely within the control of the multinational company. Is there any mechanism whereby we can test this pricing so that we can ensure that this is a fair pricing? Yes, the answer to that is the transfer pricing regulations. The objective of transfer pricing regulations is to ensure that profit shifting, which erodes the tax base of a country, does not take place. We will come to transfer pricing regulations later. Just coming back to profit shifting. Well, so if parent is dealing with its subsidiary and parent is providing goods to the subsidiary, having full control over the price of the goods, the parent can ensure that it keeps as high a price as possible for the goods that is providing to the subsidiary. Thereby, it will be able to deflate the profits in country A. So subsidiary B in the low tax jurisdiction will end up paying a huge amount of money, maybe unreasonable and away from the arm's length price for the goods to country A, and thereby country A will deflate the profit that it shows in its books in country A. So in this manner, the parent will be able to reduce its tax liability. At the same time, the income in country B of subsidiary shall increase, which is a low tax jurisdiction. So automatically what is happening is that profit is shifting from the high tax jurisdiction to the low tax jurisdiction. In this manner, for the multinational company as a whole, it is able to reduce its total tax cost. The whole and sole objective of transfer pricing regulations, which have been put in place by most of the countries, is to put a stop to this kind of profit shifting. Having understood the concept of profit shifting, the fundamentals of transfer pricing, we just look at some of the salient features of Indian transfer pricing regulations. Well, until 2001, the country did not have any specialized transfer pricing regulations. It had some tax avoidance mechanisms. It had some profit shifting targeting regulations, but these were too general in nature. Till 2000, in India, in the past 2 decades, we saw a sea change in terms of globalization, liberalization of the economy. As multinational investment was pumped up in India, the government obviously felt the need to regulate transfer pricing and to ensure that the multinational companies were paying the fair share of tax in India. Towards this end, in 2001, transfer pricing regulations were introduced. These regulations in India, when introduced, were applicable only to cross-border transactions between related parties. Multinational companies were required to set their prices in accordance with the arm's length principle. To justify the price and to demonstrate that the price is as per arm's length pricing, they had to maintain detailed and comprehensive documentation. Stringent penalties have also been prescribed under the law for any taxpayer found to be erring under the transfer pricing regulations or not maintaining the arm's length price. Overseas jurisdictions also, by and large, require compliance with their own transfer pricing regulations. Therefore, when we are dealing with the question of transfer pricing, we have to balance two sides: the Indian context, which is determined by Indian transfer pricing regulations, as well as the overseas context, wherein overseas transfer pricing regulations would come into play. Both regulations require that a fair share of the price or fair share of the profit should be paid in the respective jurisdictions. So, my friends, transfer pricing regulations, working with the transfer pricing regulations for the two countries is really like a tug of war, with each jurisdiction trying to claim a fair share of the profit in the total value generation that we see in a particular transaction. So, my friends, this was just a basic concept of what is transfer pricing, what are the key terminologies which are used in transfer pricing, and giving you salient features of the transfer pricing regulations. As we move forward in the subsequent modules, we will dive deep into what are the documentation requirements, what are the methods that can be used, what are the nitty-gritties of the transfer pricing regulations. That's all for today. Thank you.